Good morning, everybody. Wherever you are, however you may be listening, this is your Wednesday wrap-up. Mr. U is on the road, but you are still here with myself and my man, Herb. How's it going, buddy?
Man, it's a beautiful morning. I've got coffee.
Coffee is important.
I had never heard of this coffee stuff until I started doing this show with you guys, and now it's like, how did I live without it?
Sometimes peer pressure works out.
Yes.
Oh, man. So we will start off with that. So you saw an alert that the Steelers may not pick up the Justin Fields option?
It says Fields is likely to be a free agent. They're not expected to pick up his $25 million option.
That is interesting.
It is.
Because why would you? I mean, I understand you got him for nothing.
Right.
But you have Russ for 1 year. He's realistically not your future. Right? Fields is still young enough. He could be. Right? $25 million when it comes to quarterback play is
nothing.
Yeah, it's that's cheap at this point.
Yeah.
So that seems crazy, even if you were thinking about drafting a guy, right? Because if you can get him for 25, all of a sudden you don't necessarily have to get the number one pick. You can get a third rounder and bring him along for a year behind the tutelage of Fields.
Right.
Fields will only cost you 25 mil. Maybe your next guy, 25 mil is still a cheap gap guy.
Yeah. Because
there's no way you're picking up, Russ for the future. I don't see that being a real thing.
I agree. That's why I thought it was weird when it came across. And why are we ruling out that possibility before? I mean, I guess you have to make the decision soon, but it's just, did you not get him for the chance at being your future? You still don't really know what you have in Fields. And, if you support him right, you might have a good quarterback. There's still a number one draft pick here. So with mobility and probably better than what you've seen in a while, I guess since Roethlisberger left.
Oh, no
like
doubt.
You said, 25 is just, I never thought I'd be in the day where I'd say, hey, 25 million is cheap, but for a backup quarterback, it's just not bad money, or a guy who could be your starter, I guess. It's just not bad money. I just feel like it's a decent investment. You were willing to roll with the Mason Rudolphs of the world for a while. Why not take a chance on the
thing, right? You made it into the playoffs with Trubisky and Rudolph.
Right.
You can't tell me Fields isn't an upgrade from that.
Right.
And,
and then it's so is the plan, you're not going to play him much this year. You're not going to pick up his option. Are you honestly tanking him to get him for cheap? I mean, because that seems kind of like a terrible, I
mean, that's a dirty play, but
yes.
I mean, someone's going to outbid you for it, because that's going to, and even if they don't necessarily give more money, that's going to put a bad taste in your mouth. If I had a team do that to me, even if somebody was offering me kind of the same, I'm out.
Yeah, I agree.
Because that's just, I don't know. That seems kind of a dirty way to do it.
Right. And that's why I didn't want to think about that, because I was that seems like a terrible strategy. So what is the actual strategy?
Well, I mean, see, that's the thing is you go into this and you think Russ is your guy to start. Right. They've already set the groundwork for that. Russ is your guy to start the season, in theory. Right. Unless Fields is just amazing in preseason or whatever.
Right.
But you're not going to know anything more if he's not your starter anyway.
Right.
Right. So why wouldn't you take the 5th-year option? It's the cheapest you're going to get him for. Right. Because even as a viable starter, he's going to get more than 25 mil on a new deal.
Right.
Right.
Agreed.
And if your plan is to mostly sit him, why would you risk having to sign him? Or you're looking at the end of this season with no quarterbacks at all?
Yeah. Or to your other theory, if they draft a third rounder, they're hoping that development really takes off and he's your starter next year. Isn't that kind of thinking what got you to this mess in the first place?
Absolutely. Well, and then of course, if that's your plan, why did you get Fields at all?
Right.
Right. Because I mean, I would trust somebody learning behind Russ over Fields,
Right.
right? So I mean,
Fields who's still
it's,
fighting life. I'm not teaching anyone if I'm Fields. Like,
right?
good luck.
Like I haven't even really gotten my shot because the team
Right.
I was on was trash. Like I'm not trying to get somebody. I'm not training someone to take my job when I'm
Yes.
still trying to get one.
Yes. I'm stealing playbooks and everything. So
Morning.
what up, Raj?
Yeah. No, it's I don't know. I mean, the Steelers, they first make these moves, and you're like, okay, yeah, they're trying to win, right? Like the moves they made, you're like, oh, they're trying to win now, and and in doing this, you're like, or maybe they're not. Like,
Yeah.
they're just going in for this year. Is that what it is? They're just like,
And
we're doing
this year a
everything,
bust, and that's
right?
it. Yeah.
I don't feel like they're a good enough team for that.
No. I mean, you're thinking playoffs, right? I'm not even putting them as like a division favorite. I'm thinking wild card right off the gate. So
yeah,
no,
yeah,
I don't.
yeah, that's wild card at best. The defense is good. You got Pickens, right? Okay.
Yep.
That's not a good enough team to win.
Right.
Like,
Right.
So now I still think they can be a wild card team, obviously, because the quarterback play is going to step up. But you can't tell me that they're sizably better than everyone else in the league. I don't think they're better than people in their own division.
No.
So
like I would take odds against them to win the division like easily, and I feel like I said, it's wild card or bust. You're not a championship team. Like there is no Super Bowl coming up next year. And I like Tomlin. I like the Steelers. It's not, but you got to be honest with yourself.
yeah.
There's nothing that you've done in this offseason that makes me think, yeah, that put us over the hump. Like
no,
if you had to,
I feel like overachieving for them is a divisional round exit.
Yeah. Like if you told me they had to face Baltimore and Kansas City in order, and then even one other team in the division that win those 3 games to get Super Bowl, I'm like, yeah, that's never going to happen.
Yeah, so, that's one of those. That's cute, buddy.
Yes. Catastrophic things would have to happen for them to run that gauntlet. Yeah.
So. No, to be thinking that is 100% the bless your heart kind of moment.
Yes. So I don't get it either. That's why I thought it was weird when the alert came up there. I was like, okay. So I don't know. I don't know what they're doing, and I don't know that they know what they're doing. So.
Well, let's see. Where do they pick in this first round? They
because they made the playoffs, right? So they pick a little late.
Yeah, that's what I would. They got to be around 20, right?
Right.
Let's see, Steelers.
It's sad. I know like the top 10 by heart, but it's the 20.
They're at 20. Okay.
Yeah. And so their own writer has them picking a center. So.
Yeah, which would make sense, but.
Oh, is that
unless you're not keeping a quarterback on your roster, and then all of a sudden that becomes very interesting because so you're going to go from Trubisky, Rudolph. You're going to bring in a couple of guys for 1 year, which means what? You're going to go after Spencer Rattler or like what are we talking about, right? Like that's not an upgrade.
No. Maybe so has a good arm. He's going to snap to himself next year.
Yeah. 8. Everything's an option.
Yeah. And I was just looking at another one. The other mock has them taking a lineman. So it seems like that's where people are pushing for them. So like that, I mean,
that's what I was figuring.
Yeah. So
you got these 2 guys in the building. You have a good defense. You're picking low enough. You're not going to get the top 3 receivers. So go get a stud in the interior offensive line to help with some protection. And then, in the second round, you're probably going after another receiver or something. So, but if you're not going to have a quarterback after this year, are you, especially in a way where you're not picking up the extension, it's like, okay, well, then what? You're getting one of the second tier guys in the 3rd, 4th round. I mean, fine, I guess. Are you gonna you're going to carry that on you're going to carry 3, maybe, I guess. I mean, I guess they did before. So
kind of.
Well, they had
I know you had Trubisky, Rudolph, and Pickett, but it was
Yeah.
kind of like, eesh, that was if that's your cards and you're playing spades, like you're done. Or if you're playing poker, you're folding.
You had a trio of backups, right? Like,
yeah.
No, and that's what I feel like you end up with moving forward. If you go into this 3rd and 4th round, because it's not like anybody in that level is is going to be polished enough to play probably even next year.
Right.
With the exception of what's the Florida State quarterback's name?
Oh God, if you hadn't asked me, it starts with a P.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm mind blanking.
I'm sorry, Jordan Travis. I don't know what's that P. Jordan Travis.
Yeah, so
that's close. P is in the alphabet, and
I mean, you were within 26 anyway.
See, thank you.
So yeah, no, that's one that is interesting to me because nobody's really talking about him, right? He had a good season. They blame the fact that they didn't get into the playoff on him not being there.
Right.
But then for some reason, he's also getting discounted because he got injured and somehow wasn't the reason. Right. So like, which way is it? Like, did they not get in the playoff because he was hurt or did he? Because you can't argue it both ways. I mean, they do.
Oh, you don't know the internet. We can absolutely argue
it, but
it
makes no sense at all. Right. Like that makes absolutely no sense.
No, I agree.
So, yeah, I mean, that's one where I think you could get him in the third round and have a solid guy.
Right.
Because that's where I figure he'll end up going, is somewhere in the 3rd. And I mean, the injury he's going to come back from, right? I mean, injuries aren't quite the same as they used to be. Like, these guys come back from these things.
Right.
So he'll be fine. That one just seems wild to me that he gets injured, was leading an undefeated team. Now, I understand they continued to be undefeated. Sure. But I mean, his stats were good.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know.
Talking about like a Heisman candidate, before he goes down, right? Like you said. And I because I think I brought up on Monday, and I was thinking about the Hendon Hooker thing with Detroit. It's like get in a spot where, I've got my starter. He's definitely here for the next year. Don't need this guy to play, because he did get hurt later in the year. So you would kind of expect him to, to miss this year. But
for sure,
you've probably got a gem if you've got any kind of development. He sits on the sideline like, I really wish more quarterbacks could for their first year and take it in, learn the system, get everything under their belt. And then, you see what you have next year. You could have a gem, and you're going to call him a 3rd rounder. But like you said, it's had he not get hurt, you're probably talking about a 1st round talent here. Easy.
Oh, yeah.
Getting into that 6 quarterback mix, and you probably feel better about him than you do some of the other fringe guys. So without the age of like a Hendon Hooker or like a Bo Nix or Michael Penix. So there's a lot to like about that situation. So I imagine you're not hearing a lot of talk because there's some people thinking exactly like us, and they don't want any smoke around him anyway. So they're just like, we're going to ignore this and just hope he's there when we pick and just take him as a steal. So
yeah, I mean, there might be somebody that snags him in the 2nd round. If he's continuing to slide and somebody's like, this is our guy, we want him.
Right.
Like, I could see somebody grabbing him in the 2nd round. But yeah, that's one of the quarterbacks that it's just wild to me that is getting absolutely no play with the amount of success he had on the field. The fact that they blame the not getting into the playoffs on him being hurt, but then somehow they're just like, oh yeah, it had nothing to do with him. It's like, I feel like, what?
Like it doesn't, But I think that's more draft stuff than anyone else. It's crazy the way it works. But somebody is watching him, and somebody's like, if he can fall to this position, that's where we're taking him. So let's say you get a potential 1st round draft pick late. So
there is definite gamesmanship to the draft. There is no doubt.
Yeah. NFL Draft Buzz has his projection in the 6th round.
there's no way he lasts to the 6th round.
That's just crazy.
Yeah, that would be that would be so disrespectful if everybody just passed on him until the 6th round. Like, that seems absolutely crazy to me. But
yeah, because even Hendon Hooker didn't go that late, I don't believe, right? So
no. How are you leading a top school undefeated, and they're like, nah, that's not for us.
like I said, especially if you have a year to go ahead and let him sit. Like, I think it's fine.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's why I thought about it on Monday, and I was like, we're not hearing about it, we're not talking about it, but this is what I would do. So
this is where I could see this working, right? Is you have Russ, you have Fields, say you draft him, right? All of a sudden free agency opens back up because the draft is done. So then you trade Russ, right? Because you're only $1 million into it. It didn't cost you anything. He was he was released, right? So it cost you $1 million. So now you can probably get a future third for him, right?
right.
Probably still get that for Russ, which means you're just gifted a 3rd round pick for doing nothing, right?
Right.
$1 million, you bought a 3rd round pick. And you're probably not even on the hook for the $1 million, right? The team that's picking him up will probably give him the $1 million.
Right.
So, like, you may literally just be gift wrapped a 3rd round pick, and then you have Fields if you're not picking up that extra option, and then you draft him. All of a sudden, that could make sense. Like, that could make sense.
Right. And so another mock has him 6th round again to the Jets. So they're pretty, yeah. And as the 9th quarterback. So they're saying after that run on the first 6, and then you get Rattler and the guy from Tulane.
Then really, the 9th?
We're just punting on the position.
That is wild.
Yeah.
That is wild. I wouldn't have guessed he was going to be behind all of those 2nd tier. I thought he was going to be, solidly in that mix, even with the injury, right?
Right.
Huh. Crazy.
Yep.
Crazy.
And that's just 2 mocks, so who knows, but that's a projection. ESPN has them even lower than that projection, but that's at least 2 that are thinking, yeah, he's not going until 6th round.
I mean,
that means you're going to take the first 6 in the 1st or 2nd round, then the kid from Tulane and Rattler, maybe 3rd round, and then 6th round you get Travis, and anybody else who's left, you might as well start filing your undrafted free agent and taking calls. So,
I mean, can you even trust ESPN at this point? Who's even still working there?
True. Might be me writing the articles, and I just don't even know it.
Oh man. So the Zach Wilson trade, right? That is 1, hilarious, but 2, the details finally come out, right?
Yeah, they traded him for a bag of Snickers, or was it a Reese's peanut butter cup king size?
Man, it's like a half-eaten peanut butter cup. So they're splitting his $5.5 million salary, right? So the Broncos will be on the hook for $2.75 million and a pick swap. So the Jets get the 203rd 6th round pick, and the Broncos get the 256th 7th round pick and Wilson. So basically they got Wilson for nothing, which is the right amount. But but then it's just like, okay, so now you have a quarterback room of Stidham and Zach Wilson. I can't imagine you're fired up if you are a Broncos fan at the moment.
Right.
Now, maybe they try and draft somebody, right? Tough to say. They're in position, right? I think they're the 11th or the 12th pick.
12th pick.
12th. So, I mean, they're in position. They could get a guy, right? Because Penix and Bo Nix, or one of those 2 guys, will probably still be on the board at 11. So, I mean, they could go get a guy, right? But at the same time, is this just a weird way, because they're running this so bizarrely? Is this just a weird way to slow play going to get Dak? Because Dak's not gonna be a Cowboy next year.
Yeah.
And
are you 100% on that? You're sure the way these negotiations are going, he's going?
It has to do with what he's said at this point. So, just because I don't want to misquote this. So the contract talks, basically, he said if they start up, he's willing to listen. So it sounds like they haven't gone particularly well. And then he goes and says, "I don't fear playing for another team."
Yeah.
And the thing is he's going to get his cap is 55 mil this year, and I believe it's like 57 or close to 60 next year. Whether he's on the roster or not, that's just the cap hit.
Dang.
Because it was this backloaded thing, so there wasn't even money left. That's just his cap hit. So it was just it's a bizarre way that they had their contract. But that being said, are they going to try and negotiate a situation where you're already a $60 million cap hit, and then you're gonna compound that? I mean, I can't imagine that's how they're going to do it, because they've been in cap trouble anyway.
Right.
And so, plus you have him saying, "I don't necessarily need to be the top guy," but he also, alludes to, "I can't pay my bills if I'm only making 35 million," which is hilarious to me.
Okay, Latrell Sprewell.
Right? Like, give me a chance. Like, I think 35 mil, I could make the numbers work.
I mean, do you have a calculator handy? I need to run some things real quick just to see. I don't want to commit. Give me a set. Okay, I'm in. And when people say this, I wonder if they ever realize this is why a lot of fans don't support a lot of what you guys say when you say stuff like that. If the contract comes down to 40, I just don't know about that. I'm like, okay, to be great in the regular season and not win any playoff games, and now you want 50.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So,
well, especially when you look at his career and you stack it up next to Romo, same guy, right? Same amount of postseason success. Or you stack it up next to Kirk Cousins, right? Regular season stat monster, doesn't really do anything in the playoffs. Like, these are not resumes that I think you should be the highest paid guy in the league.
Right.
Like, it'd be one thing if, okay, you didn't win a Super Bowl. Sure. I mean, that's hard to do. You got to get out of the first round.
Yeah.
Like, you're telling me you can't go 12-5 and win a postseason game?
Yeah.
And
especially with a high seed and home field advantage. Like, these are things that you just can't punt on. We need
spectacularly, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not even like it was, we went against a really tough team and it was a battle to the end. They beat us with a field goal or something. It's like, you got smacked by the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, who lost their next game.
Exactly.
When you lose to that team, they need to win the Super Bowl. And you can say, well, we ran into the wrong team at the wrong time. When they lose the very next game, no matter how they lost it, if they're out the next game, you're like, so we just lost. So we came out flat and we just lost.
Turns out we're bad.
Yeah. And there you go. Turns out we're bad. Can I have my 50 to 60 million? Like, these things just don't go together, And then having to play Parsons and Lamb, I guess the thinking is, if I'm going to pay two of these three, pay these two. But like you said, the cap hit's already there, so I don't even know if that's part of the thinking. But can you get worse with a new quarterback?
That's the biggest thing with Dallas is I think this year, at the end of this year, I think they're kind of blowing this thing up. I think they have to, because there's just too many expensive pieces. Right. This is we tried, we just couldn't get over the hump. Blow the thing up. McCarthy out, Dak out. Let's trade off the expensive pieces and rebuild this thing.
Right.
So that's probably where they're headed. I don't really think that Dak is headed to Denver. I just think that would be a hilarious watch the world burn kind of move, because they go from a underproducing, really expensive quarterback to Zach Wilson and Stidham, to then go to a what will probably be an underproducing, expensive
Overpaid.
quarterback.
Yeah.
So
That move would signal like we're not trying to win the whole thing, but I just want us to be better than what we were and show some progress as a coach since I'm here.
yeah,
Like that's
yeah,
one of those things. So it is interesting. I was listening to a podcast where they were talking about NFL in general, and the guy there made a good point. He was like, if you're Denver picking at that spot, he said, do you want to get the 5th or 6th best anything, or do you want to get the best of another position? He said, and they're primed for, there's a lot of positions where they can get the first or best player there. And he said, it's
yes,
just probably not as worth it to them to pick what is, kind of regarded as the 5th or 6th best quarterback. He said, go get the best of something and make your roster better. So I thought that was an interesting point. You can see what I do at work. I listen to podcasts and
right.
occasionally try to get some work done.
No, and I agree with that. Like if you're keeping your 11th spot,
Yeah,
then why wouldn't you go get, the best edge rusher or, the second best tackle? Because there will be a couple of tackles there.
yep.
Or even like you could probably still get, your top 3 receivers will be gone.
Yeah, top 3 receivers will be gone in 4 quarterbacks. But like when you say edge rusher and tackle, they might actually be the first tackle or edge rusher on your board still left at 12.
Absolutely.
So you're depending on how you regard things. So those are still in play. If you wanted an offensive weapon, I mean, Brock Bowers might still be there if you just desperately wanted to still get it since you're trading off everybody.
I could see Bowers still being on the board. I mean, that's about where he'll go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
it's just weird because of the stuff and the trade up in front of him. I think he's a top 10 talent, but I think positionally, I think I keep saying that positionally, and then not knowing exactly what the people in front of him are going to do. Take away from that. So I could see him sliding there. I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets took him at 10, but I mean, I'm kind of getting away from it. There will be a lot of options at 12 for Denver to get the best or second best of something that you really like versus, hey, I'm getting the 5th or 6th quarterback and still have questions.
Or, I mean, do you do that, or do you trade back from 12?
I would trade back
and get some more talent. Because I mean, at the end of the day, unless you're getting the number 1 tackle or the number 1 edge, the next 3 or 4 guys are going to be pretty similar, right? Yep. So you could trade back from 12 and get into, the late teens, and probably still have, you'll get the late teens pick. You'll probably get an extra second. You'll probably get an extra third. And with a team like the Broncos that really need a lot of parts, right? They ended up having to lose a lot of things because of their cap issues, since they're still paying Russ. It might make sense for them to just acknowledge that maybe this year ain't it, right? And maybe they really are rolling with Zach Wilson and Stidham, and you have to think that Zach Wilson wins that job.
Yeah.
And so if that's the case, then yeah, maybe you go back and you solidify the line and you start, building a team the way it's supposed to be, right? Yeah. I always find it interesting when teams go in and they're grabbing a bunch of, like the Bears. The Bears are a great example of this. We're going to add weapons. What we're not going to fix is the offensive line that had Justin Fields running for his life constantly.
Yep.
Seems bizarre.
Well, to me, anytime you draft a young quarterback, get him on one good target, number 1 wide receiver, and then a great line around him. So no matter, even if he's got mediocre guys, you got at least some time to get open, and we're not getting this guy killed. So
yeah, or if you don't have a good number 1, get him a good slot. Get him a possession receiver so that you can at least pick up first downs.
Yep. Here's a possession receiver. Here's a tight end. You just throw to those guys, and we're going to give you enough time to find them. So There you go. No, I agree. And I think there's some projections where as Denver trying to move up, I just don't think you can lose draft capital to move up. And like you said, have a quarterback with a terrible team. So I'd move back. I'd solidify the whole team. I agree with that option 100%.
So
which means it won't happen. They'll trade up to like 3 and
right
get somebody killed.
Exactly. They'll give up like 4 number 1s to go get Caleb.
Yeah. And we'll just be sitting there shaking our head like, poor Caleb.
I mean, we're already doing that because if he's going to the Bears, and only because the Bears are so dysfunctional, I mean, because he does have some weapons, right? Like they have some receiver talent. They got a tight end. The defense is noticeably better,
Right.
but they don't have an offensive line, and they have a coach that should have been fired last year.
Yep.
So, unfortunately for him, he's probably going to struggle. Eberflus going to get fired, and then he's going to have a whole new staff again.
Yep.
So, I mean, he's probably going to get off to a little bit of a rough start in his career. I don't know that he has the mental fortitude to weather that.
Yeah.
That's one of my bigger concerns with him, because he has talent, but decision, like had he been drafted last year, right, I would have been cool with the number 1 overall pick. I don't know that he's necessarily the best quarterback in this draft, but after watching him last year, he beat bad teams, couldn't beat good teams.
Right.
Seemed like he was making bad decisions when things got harder. Obviously, has some mental breakdowns around that. And, I guess is good a way to segue into this as there is. So this is a soundbite. He's talking to Ryan Clark about going to Oklahoma.
The most recent one was Oklahoma when I didn't start. That one was real tough for me because
when you made a decision to go to Oklahoma and Spencer Rattler was already there.
Yeah.
And that was just at the time when you made a decision to go to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Spencer Rattler was a projected first-round pick the next year.
Yeah.
You had to pivot because they decided to start the guy that was supposed to be a first-round pick that year, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Why'd you choose to go there?
Development.
So
the guy asking the questions is mad, huh? Like he's about to, he's
right?
about to go after.
Ryan Clark is looking at him like, dude, you are dumb.
I mean,
like
a little bit of entitlement on that one right there.
Well, especially because you're a freshman, right? They have a guy that's slated to be a first-round pick who knows their systems, been killing it in their system. You come in as a freshman, and then you're mad you didn't start? Like, I get exactly where Ryan Clark's coming from there.
Yeah.
That makes no sense.
He framed that one perfect. Like, we're going to make sure there's no misquotes.
Yeah.
Here's the exact situation.
Yeah.
And this is what you're saying. Okay.
Yep.
Like, that's an interesting.
Now,
that's weird.
It continues on. Obviously, it was a longer interview than that. But yeah, I mean, you got a guy that's supposed to be the number 1 pick, or a first rounder anyway. Yeah, you're not going to beat him your freshman year.
Yeah.
I don't care what you do in practice.
And it's like he got there the first day and found out that you guys already have a guy? Like, this is not what happened. So,
Not at all. Not at all.
We believe that you knew the roster before you got there, buddy.
No, and it was funny because he's just like, but I was the best in the country. It's like, yeah, in high school. Like, calm down a little bit.
Yeah. Do you know how many kids are the best in the country coming out of high school? Like, there's a lot of you. Exactly. There can't be more than one best in the country. Yeah, everyone gets kind of touted at that. So yeah, we hear a lot of hype.
That's the thing, right? Yeah. Like, it's the hype train.
Yep. Yep. So
yeah, no, it's I don't know. I found it interesting. It also that kind of goes into that. I don't know that he has the mental fortitude to like really thrive in this position if things get ugly or when they get ugly, because it's the Bears, so they probably will. But I feel like there is because of his mindset, I feel like there's a real chance that he ends up being a bust, not because he doesn't have the physical talents.
Right.
I think it could be one of those Ryan Leaf situations where you have the physical talent, you just mentally are not prepared for this situation.
Right. And that it is interesting that the Pac-12 got noticeably better for their last year, and he got worse. So I don't know if you want to say that's bait team-wise, because they still obviously had offensive talent, but it's not a good look for sure.
No, especially when you were coming up short against every good team.
Yeah.
And I mean, to be fair, the Pac-12 was no joke coming, in that last year, right? Like
Right.
you were over halfway through the season and 8 of the 12 were in the top 25,
Mm-hmm.
which, I mean, that's impressive.
Yeah.
That's
And they were
impressive.
playing much better defense than what you kind of given them credit for in the
Yes.
past, too, I think so. And I think that's why it's like, and don't get me wrong, I'm not going to discount, you win a Heisman, you're putting up great stats. That's something. But
Yes.
when they got better, it did get a little worse for them. So,
Yeah. Well, especially when you look at the defenses of like Utah,
yeah.
like they didn't have much offense, but that defense was no joke.
Yeah. And I think they beat him up every year. Didn't Utah? Utah had USC's number.
Oh, yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
that was always a tough one for him. So.
Well, and I mean, even teams like UW and Oregon, I mean, their defenses weren't top end, but they were formidable.
Yeah. Yeah. So
So
they had a lot of talent on those teams for sure.
absolutely. Absolutely. Now, granted, they had a lot of offense on both those teams also.
Right.
But, that was a Pac-12 thing, though. Pac-12, they'll hang points on you.
Yes. Yep.
Now, they may not be able to stop you either, but they'll hang points. But yeah. So anyway, I think his probability of being a bust continues to go up the more he talks.
Yeah.
Right? Because every time you have a quarterback that's coming out that's been running his mouth a lot, saying I'm the best, all of these things, other teams get up for that game.
Yep.
Right? They're like, oh, I want to punish this. Welcome to the NFL type moments.
Right.
And it also rubs guys on your own team wrong. Like if they're already tired of hearing you and you haven't started practicing yet, that's not great because your offensive line, even if they're not trying to take something off, they'll take something off.
Yeah.
They'll be like, oh, I missed that block, or I just didn't quite get outside.
Yep. Be like, what was what was the movie where they go to jail, where the guy goes to jail and
Replacements. It was just on TV.
No. But Replacements, I do remember. But I'm saying where he's in jail for speeding or whatever, and they're playing the convicts, I think, versus the guards. And
you're talking like a longest yard.
Yeah,
Okay,
where they just say, "I'm gonna let you get beat up." Maybe not to that extent, but
yeah. I mean, it wouldn't happen consistently, but there could be a play where they're like, "You better run."
Yeah, yeah. So that one's gonna be it's just an interesting situation. I don't.
Yep.
You're about to be the number one pick, or if you're a first rounder or whatever you are. It's like you want to come in with a little humbleness, and just kind of, especially that first year, man, just kind of blend in and just like see how everything comes, especially at the quarterback position, because more eyes are on you than any other position. You're instantly like the face of the franchise in most cases. Everything you do is going to be scrutinized. So I don't think a lot of these guys realize that. And college and the pro, like how many people say it, like the jump from college to the pros is huge. Yeah, you might have been killing it in college, but
well, I mean,
doesn't
that is the biggest thing, is you go from college where you got 3 to 5 NFL guys on your better teams.
Right.
Now you're going into the league where your 53rd guy was an All-American somewhere.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, it's not like it's not apples to apples. Like you're going against the best of the best.
Right.
So of course there's a drop. Right. So I never like guys coming in, making a ton of noise, running their mouth coming in. Cause it's like the speed of the game is going to get you.
Yeah.
Whether you're loud about it or not. Yeah. But if you're loud about it, everybody's going to be a little bit happy that you're getting ran over.
Yep.
Right. Like if he was being quiet, or at least was being humble, right? Not trying to be like, oh, we don't want to sign a rookie deal. We want more money, or we want to be part of the ownership group, or, just craziness that he's already been putting out. Now, all of a sudden, even some of your own fans of your team are like, this guy's kind of a douche. I kind of hope he gets ran over a little bit.
Right. Just
Like,
knock some sense into him.
Oh yeah, like you're gonna hear some real cheers the first time he gets blown up.
Yeah.
Like he's gonna scramble outside, and a free safety is gonna come clean him up, and probably get a 15-yarder, but it won't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll
and
take
you'll
one
hear-
just to knock some sense into you for sure.
Absolutely.
For sure.
And there will be cheers in the crowd, and it won't matter what stadium they're in. Like it could happen at home, it could happen away, and there will probably be some of the team's own fans like, good, maybe he learned something here. Because otherwise you end up with the Johnny Manziel type situations where there's so much of this and noise making, and what there wasn't was good quarterback play.
Yeah, exactly. These guys just don't realize it sometimes. Like the third linebacker off the bench in the NFL was a great college player. The third linebacker off the bench in college is maybe a future accountant. So it's just not the same. And like you said, it's how many players from an NFL team, from a college team are going NFL, except for some of those you've had some Alabama, Georgia, like Miami in the past, but that's not what you're going up on week by week.
And the thing that's funny about those is like when you look at Georgia 2 years ago, right? And the Eagles picked up half of that defense. The problem is that was a unit that worked well together.
Right.
So now you get to the NFL and you start to realize, okay, well, some of these guys weren't actually NFL level players. And some of them guys are already gone. We're 1 year removed. Some of those guys are already not in the league anymore. So, sometimes based on the success of the team, there's some guys that get brought up that, maybe aren't that caliber, but even still, to your point, most of the time that last guy on the roster is still better than 80% of the personnel on any college team.
Yeah. They have a series. I think they do. I don't want to say a series, but I think it's Scalabrini, an NBA player, goes out there and plays random people. And they're trying to show you look, the guy on the end of the bench in the NBA is still better than most of the people that you're going to run into, and he just plays random guys and former college players and all this kind of stuff. And he's beating them on. He's like, there's no comparison. Like those guys that you're calling scrubs are maybe scrubs for the league, but not scrubs for the rest of us. So
none of them are bums.
Right.
Like, sure, they may not look great against the elite in the league, but like you go anywhere else, you're that dude.
Exactly. It's funny to watch that one because I'm like, it kind of puts it more in perspective.
Absolutely. So sticking with football here, we got. I hope I have the sound bite. I had it, but my screen refreshed, so it's probably lost forever. Looks like it. Awesome. Well, that's convenient. So anyway, Carmani McLean, formerly with I guess technically still there, with Colorado, right? He enters the portal and kind of takes some shots at Dion in his little exit Instagram rant, I guess. He says he wants to play for a real program and doesn't want to play for clicks. Now, some of it I'm not mad at because we kind of all look at it from the outside. Like, Dion makes so much noise that it takes away from the kids.
Yeah.
Right. So in a way, I can even appreciate the I don't want to play for clicks scenario. Right. Because as I recall, he was a 5-star recruit. So it's not like he was trying to get notoriety by going there. But that being said, it's not like Dion doesn't care about these kids. Like you can tell he legitimately wants these guys to be successful.
Oh yeah.
He is
even if it just makes him look better, he wants them to.
No, exactly. Whatever the motivation doesn't matter. He does legitimately want them to be better. Right. And so, some of it I think is probably not fair to say, right? Now he could have just said, hey, I want to go somewhere that has the potential to win now, right? Because I mean, Dion still has to build something there,
Right.
and it's not like the path is getting easier moving conferences. So I think I could get moving in that front, but some of the taking shots probably didn't need to happen. The not wanting to play for click shot, I think, is kind of accurate though.
Yeah.
That one I could definitely see, because again, Dion has that Jerry Jones action to him where he has to be the center of attention.
Right.
And so I can get how some of the kids may not love that atmosphere.
Right. Right. And I was actually talking to a friend about that. He's like, some of the players are, because like my coworker, played football, high school, stuff like that. And he said he wasn't that type of person. He wanted to just, you didn't hear anything about me until I got on the field and you realized you had a player, and he said he would not be the kind of person. I think he's a Dion fan, but he wouldn't be that guy like, oh, I want all these interviews. I want all this, I want all this. I just want to go out and play. And some guys do just kind of want to go out and play. And to be fair, and I'd have to look at the timeline, Dion took shots at the players going out too. So it's kind of like, that's the environment that you've kind of brought up here, and
it almost feels a little bit toxic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to do that either, personally.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't even one that would really, talk on the field.
Right.
Like, I'd let you talk.
Yeah.
And then, that's fine. But then I would just come and try and hit you harder.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't. But I wasn't really one that would talk much.
Yeah. And I wasn't either. And it was more basketball for me. But I was just like, my play is going to show you what I can do. And I never really said a word to anybody out there. But it to each his own, for sure. And I mean, Kamani, you had to know what you were getting into. It's kind of like, you were just talking about with Caleb Williams. You know what kind of person Dion is. So if you agree to go play there, what environment, not the toxic part of it, but it's going to be high profile and talked about. So
yeah, I wonder, that's where you wonder what it is behind closed doors.
Agreed.
Right? So like, if I was a player and I was going in and I was seeing that it was that, and you're like, okay, it's a little bit of a circus, but it's a little bit of a circus on the outside. If that continues to the inside, then, I would have had a real problem also. Right. Like, if it's a circus outside, that's fine. And then you get inside the walls and you get to work. Cool. You can deal with that. But if it's a circus inside and outside, that's where I'm curious what it looks like from inside the building. Morning, Chad. So yeah, it's, and of course that we don't know. Right. I mean, you see the little bit of clips from, videos that are inside the meeting rooms and stuff. But, oh, looks like I lost him. But yeah, so I don't know. It's definitely kind of interesting to see them, kind of take shots at each other. So, we'll see. And he's gone. Good old technology mornings. Gotta love it. With 10 minutes to go, we should do our station break. I didn't realize it was quite that far in the show. So we'll see you in a couple of minutes.
This is Reggie Jones, owner and founder of Air Sports Academy. Air is based on the 4 core principles: heart, education, integrity, resiliency. Air is about developing student athletes physically and mentally through training, mentorship, and effective marketing. We've created a platform and a blueprint for our state to shine in the brightest of lights. I created this program because it was a need for our state. We needed to have the light shine on the student athletes in our region. And now that is happening at an all-time and undeniable rate. We created a lane for the kids in our state to get their college education paid for and set their families up for future success. We created an environment where serious athletes can now come compete fearlessly. We've achieved this through our variety of elite programs. Our 6-month off-season program, where first-year starters or seasoned vets can all come develop. Our 5-on-5 program, which is all about our line. Our youth tackle program, which is the first and only youth tackle team from the state of Washington to ever win a major national championship. Our 7-on-7 program, which is ranked top 10 in the country every year. Our high school 11-on-11 club tackle program, which creates a unique and much needed opportunity for our kids. Our college prep program, which allows our graduates to come back from college and prepare for the upcoming season. Our track and field program, which creates an opportunity for our young air boys and air girls to continue to get faster. When you're a national program, you receive national respect, which is why when you look at recruiting boards and top player lists from around the country, you'll always find players from Air on those lists. Which is why college coaches from some of the most prestigious schools around the country come into our facility to recruit our players. The Penn State, Alabama, Oregon, Stanford, Florida State, the list goes on. Our players are being recruited, offered, and committing to some of the top schools in the nation. The experience our players and families receive is second to none. We offer a competitive brand of sports at Air. We are the ball. And with that comes great responsibility. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. This is Air.
All right. Welcome to the world of bad internet.
I mean, so for me, it wasn't the internet. It was actually the power just went out.
Oh, that's
So,
crazy.
I don't notice it because I've got a ring light and it's hooked up to the computer. So the light never went out. So
Oh.
I have no idea that the power's out.
That's funny. That's awesome. Right on.
Oh, my wife actually has to text me, is the power out? And I go, oh, I suppose that could be it. So, yeah, we're running off the phone for a minute here until I figure out what's going on. Sad.
Yeah. Oh, so the power's still out. It didn't like flicker
Yeah,
out.
power's still out. Yeah, it's
Oh, wow.
not flickering. I have my ring light and I have my Wi-Fi hotspot, and that's how we're finishing out the show.
All right. Well, I mean, on the plus side, there's only 7 minutes left.
Yeah.
So,
What else could go wrong?
it's cool. It's at least it's early in the day.
Yes. Great way to start off. I'm so happy.
But yeah. So anyway, all I was saying there was, if the circus was on the outside, I wouldn't mind it so much. But based on some of the videos that we've seen from inside, it looks like the circus might continue inside the building. And if that's the case, then I mean, that would be a really tough environment, especially if you were a top recruited player, right? Like if you were kind of a middle of the road player, maybe you need those clicks, right? As you progress and, you build skill and you need some of those highlight reels. But if you're a 5-star recruit already, I mean, you can go wherever you want.
Right. And it's interesting, though, because we're watching all this unfold and saying it's a bad look, but he's still, and there goes the power. He's still grabbing plenty of transfers from the portal and coming.
Oh, yeah.
So apparently nobody else cares. And, is that the NIL age, or do you just really believe in him as a coach? It's like you don't really know anymore. But other people don't seem to be worried about it.
No, I mean, I think the NIL definitely plays a part, right? Because they're going to have more NIL money because Dion is there.
Right.
Because you're getting the cameras, right? So if you are somebody that's, sponsoring these types of things, Colorado is, even though they're not a successful program as of yet, they're interesting as an advertiser because the camera's going to be on them all the time because they just follow Dion around.
Right.
Like that, ESPN is basically Deion Sanders paparazzi.
Yeah.
Like wherever he goes, they're there. So if you were going to be paying, any of these kids, sponsoring the program, whatever, I mean, you're going to look at that program because there's cameras on it constantly.
Right. Yep. And I think a friend was talking about their budget hadn't been hit until Dion scored, and then all of a sudden all the donations came in. This has been like a home run hire for Colorado because you went from obscurity to national, spotlight. So just in that regard, it's been great. Now, however it continues from this point, we'll see. But no, I mean, he's accomplished what they wanted him to do.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. And of course, it's not like they didn't get noticeably better, right? They go from a
Right.
1-win team and, they go to a 4-win team, which isn't amazing, but year over year, that's a huge jump. Now,
It
if he can do that again, like if he can go from a 4-win team to a 7 or 8-win team,
Right.
then you can say, okay, yeah, this was successful.
Right.
If you go from this 4-win team and you win 5,
And miss a bowl.
yeah, you still miss a bowl game. Obviously, you're not going to be in the expanded playoffs or anything like that. Then you got to start looking at it like, okay, well, is the distraction
Worth
the production?
Yeah.
Right.
Is the juice
But
worth the squeeze?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, it's and we don't know, right? Like that's
Yeah.
we'll have to see how it plays out this year. And just like everybody else, we're going to be watching. So,
Yeah.
I mean, their media machine works well, and
Yep.
it gets us all to watch their games. We tracked them through the season pretty religiously last year, right?
Yep.
Because we saw giant holes in it, and we were waiting for them to burn,
Right.
and ultimately they did, right? And for exactly the reasons we were laying out.
Yeah. It just wasn't sustainable. They started off this season with the best possible combination of teams, but you could see all the landmines later happen. And the fact they were struggling with some of those teams, I was like, it's not going to work for the whole season. So this is how interested we are. We're doing, we do SEC, all the teams game by game predictions, for the whole year. One of our friends is doing a Colorado one. Oh my God.
Raj coming in with the hate right at the end.
That's an actual saying, though, Raj.
It
Come on, man.
is an actual saying.
Jeez.
Uh,
We have a
awesome.
friend of ours actually going to do a game by game prediction for Colorado. That's how interesting they are to the rest of the country. So
Yeah, well, and I mean, and they are, especially because they were a team that didn't have success, right? Like they haven't had a notable program in a long time.
exactly, we
So-
remember the past, but in the far past.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is like it's
Mhm.
distant past.
Yeah. But
So,
I gotta
yeah,
say,
I mean, it's,
why are you hating? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, they will be interesting to watch. I am looking forward to seeing whatever direction it goes. And I think it's because there is such a circus around it. Whether they're successful or not, it'll be fun to watch,
Yes.
right? Because in losses, they also didn't lose gracefully, right?
Right.
Like they had some issues, which were hilarious. And, for guys like us that talk about sports, it's a good content creator, whether they win or they don't, because if they
Yes.
win, everybody's like, oh my God, they're going to win a title, which is hilarious. And then on the other end, whenever they lose, it's an absolute dumpster fire.
Yeah.
And so in both scenarios,
We win.
pretty good TV.
Yeah. I have a Georgia friend that doesn't like them, I think, because he got tired of hearing Colorado's the national championship at the beginning there, and he's like, what are you guys even talking about? So
Yeah, that made
Pump the
absolutely no sense.
Yeah.
You guys beat a national championship runner-up that lost their entire team.
yeah.
I don't know why that game was so built up, but
Right.
I mean, they didn't have anybody left. We are at the top of the hour. Let everybody know where they can find you.
All right, Raj Herb on Twitter, X, and Herb and Raj podcast on YouTube. You can find all our videos there. Spotify as well.
Right on. And of course, you can see me later today right here on Roku for Coast to Coast. And of course, at the 1 o'clock hour on Pacific time for a new Coach's Corner. Other than that, see you guys later today.